Hi, it's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to my channel where I make a lot of cake and cookie decorating tutorials as well as give a lot of baking business tips. And welcome to Vlogmas Day 4, and it's the second day of the 12 days of Christmas cookies, and we're using all the same dough for all of the cookies that I'm going to be showing you. So if you want to see how I made this dough in the first place, you can go ahead and check out this video in the right hand corner. So I feel like Disneyland does this a lot where there's a lot of cookies that are covered with like a chocolate. So I was kind of inspired by that. So I'm taking my cookie dough and I'm placing it into my cakesicle mold. And generally this is done with cake pop dough, which is already thoroughly cooked dough. But this time around, we're doing it with raw cookie batter. Now I suppose you could do this with cookie dough and just leave it as raw cookie dough, freeze it, and then dip it in the chocolate. However, you would have to make sure that you used pasteurized eggs and that you heat treat the flour. Now, before baking these, you do want to insert the stick. I ran out of popsicle sticks, so I had to go ahead and use these lollipop sticks, which I actually broke in half because they were a little bit too tall. Now, when it comes to placing those sticks in there, you just want to make sure that you do it far up enough into that cookiesicle so that it's actually supported. And then you're going to go ahead and remove it, and you'll notice as I'm removing it, I'm really using the stick portion to remove that and then placing it on a cooking sheet. If you don't have a non-stick baking mat, you can also use parchment paper. I baked it for about 14 to 15 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Once they're fully cooled, then we're going to go ahead and dip them into the candy melts. You can use whatever white chocolate that you want and make sure that you dye it with something that is supposed to be used specifically for chocolate or else it will seize up. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some sprinkles on the bottom. Now, since these are supposed to look like the Grinch, I really should have added a hint of yellow to that, but I unfortunately don't have any yellow food colorant for chocolate, so I just decided to go with the green that I have. I know it's a little bit more jewel toned than the Grinch is, but this is just a Grinch-inspired cookiesicle. Now, I wasn't super happy with these edible paints for this specific project. The black works really well, but I found the yellow to be a little bit translucent. So you'll notice there what I had to do is I had to kind of scrape off with my glove that little hint of oil on the top of my chocolate, and that's just so that the paint adheres just a little bit better. Now, I go with this first Grinch face, which I'm not super happy with, so I end up not doing the rest of the Grinch faces like that. Instead, I went ahead and I added on a little sprinkle hat, and so I dipped that into the red chocolate and then put some red sprinkles on top. By the way, if your chocolate is just too thick and you can't seem to get a nice even dip, you just need to add a flavorless oil to it after you've heated it up. You can set your chocolate in the fridge or the freezer, but you can also leave it out at room temperature, and if you're using candy melts, it will set up eventually. Then I'm taking a little itty bitty piece of fondant. You can also use modeling chocolate, gum paste, or if you already have it on hand, you can use buttercream or royal icing. I just didn't feel like whipping all of that up for this one little piece, so that's why I'm going with fondant, and then I'm kind of texturizing it to give it that fluffy little look that the Santa hat would have. And you can really use any tool for this. I'm using one of my nice cake tools, but you could use a toothpick for this if you don't have a lot of cake tools. Now, if you want to achieve that like super shiny kind of chocolate look, what you should do then is fill the cavity with chocolate, and then you put the cookie back in there, and then you cover the top with chocolate and let that set and pull it back out. But it might not work so well with your edible paints. You can see here I'm having to really brush off some of that shininess just so I can get this to adhere a little bit better. But I suppose if you weren't doing the face, you just wanted to allude to the fact that you're making a Grinch cakesicle, then that would look really nice, and especially if you get the color more correct than I did, then it would look really, really awesome. Now I'm going ahead and I'm putting in all of these yellow bits first, giving it time to dry. Now these paints are supposed to fully dry. I found that the yellow for some reason just didn't as much as it should have, whereas the black does end up drying up over time. Both the black and the white do that in this set, but some of the other colors don't seem to do it. Now, any Dr. Seuss inspired illustrations are very fun to create because you really, really can't mess this up. You really want to go in with some fine lines, but honestly, if you make a mistake here and there, it looks purposeful and it looks like how it's supposed to be. So you'll notice I created two arcs, and it does arc quite a bit on his eyebrows. And then I'm going in and I'm kind of creating this feathered outlook. It almost looks like it's like little trees or feathers for his eyebrows. And I'm going in with a really fine paintbrush here. I invested in these paintbrushes a little little while ago, best investment by far. You can go and purchase, the regular craft brushes, which I used for a long time. I just couldn't get that same thinness. I think these are specifically made so that you can get these really nice little details. You can also use an edible pen, but again, you might have a little difficulty with that formula on the chocolate. I find it just kind of moves all over the place. Now, this is just my recommendation. Perhaps if you want a really clean line on this eye, you can see I'm getting pooling because obviously the yellow is a little bit too translucent for me. Go in with a little bit of fondant or go in with a little bit of royal icing, and it's okay if it pops out a little bit on that part. I don't think it's going to look strange. It'll just look really, really nice and defined. What I love about the Grinch face is you can pretty much recreate this on anything that you're going to be making green this holiday season. I do it on macarons. I've done it on cakesicles. Now we're doing it on cookiesicles. And if you're making sugar cookies and you're decorating with royal icing for the first time, this is a great beginner one because, like I said, it's really hard to mess this one up. So here are the cookiesicles. When you bite into these, you get a really nice kind of sweetness from the outside, but the inside has that nice caramelized brown butter crunch. And so it's a really great textural experience. Store them in the fridge or out on the counter all holiday season long. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading every single day for Vlogmas, so be sure to come back tomorrow for the next day of Vlogmas and to see what I'm going to do with this cookie dough next. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!